Thank you, Adam. Thank you for the insights shared and the knowledge. That was pretty interesting and useful, I hope, for the attendance. Now, I want again to remind you about the possibility to put some questions inside the chat box. And I pass the ball again to Daniel, who will speak about COVID-19 consequences for aviation industry and what direction should we take in order to cope with this tough situation.
Thank you very much, Julia. We're going to talk a little bit about COVID-19 and how it affected the current situation, and of course, how it affects directly to the engines. Can the aviation industry survive? Interesting. We still do not know when COVID-19 is ending, by the way. COVID-19, thousands of planes grounded, aircraft on ground, means engine not being used. Therefore, it's mandatory to put them under storage. There are two types of storage that can be done. The regular storage that is for 30, 90, 100, 180 days. The other type of storage, of course, consulting with the manufacturer, that is running the engine in regular basis. The main purpose of storing an engine is to avoid corrosion, possible leaks, and wire problems in the future due to climate conditions and anything that is related to climate and environment. This also means that the operators or the owner of the engines must adjust their budgets and calculate, putting into consideration the preservation of each engine and also the unpreservation, which has to be done in case these are to operate or in case they are going to another operator, of course. Having the purple, I want to recall what Adam said, and it's about having the paperwork organized, audited. This paperwork, if it's audited, if it's organized, as Adam says, it's much more easier to pass the engine from one operator to another one. So the value is trying, how to say, we will not lose much value in case all paperwork is organized, all paperwork is how it has to be. Complying with the airworthiness requirements. I think we can move to the questions. Julia? We can hear you, Julia.
Sorry, yeah, I was unmuted, sorry for that. So there is one question in chat. I'll read it out probably just for you or for Adam, you decide actually. So, does the warranty that the engine is subject to cover expenses when a FOD has partially damaged the engine? I don't know who guys will answer this question, but probably Adam.
I can answer that if you like. What I'd say about this is it depends really on the aircraft manufacturer. Generally speaking, I would say no. The reason I would say no is those expenses can be such a variable that usually engine manufacturers wouldn't be able to work that into any warranty. What I would suggest is that in that event, those kind of expenses would be covered by insurance. So that would be the airline taking out insurance against that kind of thing happening. Because of course, you know, with operational aircraft, you know, they do go AOG all the time. They have to then cover that by getting a new aircraft, another aircraft into position. They have to get the crew into position. They have to compensate passengers, etc. So it's the same way you'd see that with a FOD event on an engine. Generally speaking, the engine manufacturer will probably, if they have the warranty, cover the costs associated with the damage, but not necessarily the expenses that went along with it. And again, going back on the subject of FOD. Sometimes that FOD damage wouldn't actually come into under a warranty claim normally because it's an accident that's nothing to do with the materials or the quality of the workmanship on the engine. So again, generally not a warranty thing for FOD damage. So I think that hopefully that kind of answers the question there.
Like usually, one representative of the insurance company comes and takes a look, audits it, and makes a report, and then decides, right? This is usually what I have seen in the past. Do you agree, Adam? Adam, when?
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. Yeah.
It's like this. I have a question here. It says they sent it directly to me. Okay, we have another question too here for our attendees.
Oh, okay, one more question. In regard, two questions even. So the first one, in regards to the COVID situation, which is the scenario for the airlines to increase operations in 2021, so next year? What will be your tips and tricks for the airlines?
I assume that if the airline doesn't, wake up and try to find a way to live with COVID, I think we are still looking to next year, probably mid next year or something. I don't know. This is my thinking. What do you think, Adam? Some people
I think
to answer, I think.
yeah, it's for me. I'm seeing the survival rates really with the airlines. I think the low cost operators are coming out better of this than some of the legacy carriers, the likes of British Airways, Lufthansa, Air France, etc.
Yeah.
So I think with how they increase operations, as I said, the low cost operators are far better placed because of their model, the way they manage their airline. So I think they're going to come off better, and I think you'll see, in fact, we are seeing a resurgence of low cost operators. And even the small airlines setting up with maybe 1 or 2 used aircraft are starting to come into operation now.
Okay, we have another question from Fabio Gnesuta.
Yeah, see that.
Julia?
Yeah, so I'll read it out for you. I am an EASA operator and my engine is Pratt & Whitney. The AD issued by TC Canada is not adopted by EASA. Do I need to comply anyway to the AD, for example, in case I will sell the engine?
Would you answer that, or you want me to answer that, Adam? Or we can answer together?
Answer both.
Yes.
Yeah.
The more the better.
Like usually, the engine, if it's manufactured from Canada, which TC is, governing, is the governor of the regulation there in that country, you should comply with that AD. This is my opinion, and this is what I know.
I would agree with that to a certain point in time. Where I would differ from that, if the AD was particularly expensive, that there may be a commercial objection to that. So the commercial department might turn around and say, hey, look, that AD is going to cost us the best part of $750,000. What we might do is we might defer that. We can continue to operate this engine because we're an EASA operator. The EASA has issued a note, and it always will do, saying it's not adopting that particular AD. We can revisit this when we come to sell the engine. And we can decide whether we're going to cover the cost of that AD, or whether the new owner is not going to insist on it being done. So yeah, I agree. If it's a small AD, if it's relatively inexpensive, I think it's just worth doing. But I think the decision to do an AD or not will come down to cost at the end of the day, and it will certainly influence the decision to go ahead with it or not.
I'm also thinking about the operational ADs sometimes do not apply. I remember when I was living in America, and there was this EASA TCAS 7.1. So it was still not, in America, the AD was still not, how to say this? It was not published inside the FAA. So it was possible, to delay, or it was published but as recommended, not as mandatory or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know in this case how it would be, if the engine has any type of a link to any operational airworthiness directive. Let me go with the next question I have here. It says, where can I find the oil type for my engine?
Okay. Okay, I can answer this. Well, normally the type certificate will actually say, sometimes it will say the type of oil to be used, or it will give a standard for the oil to be used. However, it's quite usual to, in the type certificate, see a referral onto an engine operating manual or some higher level document where you'll be given a not necessarily a type of oil, but a sort of a standard that you can use. So that would probably be the place where you would see that. And then on the back of that, when you have the actual, you actually have a designation of oil you can use, then there's sometimes there's a latitude to use different brands of oil depending, there's lots of considerations. It could be environment, it could be commercial, it could be a decision of the airline that wants to keep all of its oil the same across its fleet. So as long as the specification that's laid down in the type certificate or the engine operating manual is met, then the brand of oil you pick can be up to you, really.
I have a last question. It says, what is the most expensive part of the engine and why?
I'd say the easiest thing to think about the engine is, well, what's going the fastest and is the hottest? And generally speaking, that's going to be the HP turbine. They're usually going to be the most expensive item on there because they're operating at the most challenging set of performance criteria, such as the speed of rotation or also the temperature. I beg to be corrected on that, but I would say that the turbine, generally speaking, is expensive. However, the turbines tend to not be many stages. If we look at the compressor is a longer, has more stages to it, and that might sort of balance that out a little bit. So I'd go for turbine, but in some cases, I think you could find equally and sometimes more expensive the compressor section.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions?
No, I actually messaged our guests that's like no reply, no questions, no more questions. So at this point, we have to wind it up. Thank you for your attention, for attending this webinar. It was our first attempt, and we do hope that you got something useful here. In case you have any questions or inquiries or any thoughts to share, some feedback, you may always message us at info@grandcm.com to our corporate email, and we'll gladly assist you. And be sure that after the webinar, we will send you these materials, the presentations, at least for you to have it at hand. Probably you will get some checklists from here, which will be helpful in your further work. And we also hope that next time with maybe a longer program and much more interesting questions. The aviation is a dynamic industry, so I'm sure we'll find more topics and more heated discussions in future. So thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you, Adam, for joining us. And we wish you good luck. Have a nice evening and stay safe.
Thank you, Julia, and thanks to everyone who assisted to this webinar. I'm very happy that you have decided to join us, and let's see us the next time. I hope this is not the last time. Have a wonderful night, wonderful day in other parts of the world, and remember, consult with experts.